So, if somebody has like a foot fetish and they cheat on their partner, is it considered getting off on the wrong foot?
It depends on the logistics, I guess. Yeah. Hi, welcome to Comic Talk. I am Joshua.
An eye for an eye.
Cool, and this is our weekly comic book review for sometime in May. What's the date today, Drew?
11th.
Did you check that on your Sidekick?
I did check it on my Sidekick. The calendar is only one of the amazing features that comes on this thing. I'm not even going to get into the instant messaging capabilities.
There's so many things.
They are sick.
Yeah, there's so many things it can do. It's amazing. It's straight out of like 2009. It's incredible. All right. Title. All right, and again, just to remind you, this episode is brought to you by Sidekick. Because every hero needs a sidekick.
It's
a fact of life.
Yeah.
Did you know that song was actually written about sidekicks? The Facts of Life song?
I don't believe it.
They then took the song and used it for the title sequence of that show. But it was actually written about sidekicks.
These are facts.
Facts. You can check them on the Googles. This week we have 5 titles to talk about. We have The Vision, Black Panther, The Fix. This one that I'm not looking at, it's Jupiter Circle.
Jupiter Circle.
Jupiter Circle. And Archie.
Oh.
Archie. So we're going to start out talking about Division number 7. This is by King Walsh and Bel Air.
This one is a pretty big step away from what we've come to expect from this. Mm-hmm. It really has nothing to do with the linearity of the story that we've been in so far. It's kind of like a backstory a little bit on where his wife came from.
Right. That's been a big mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And everything kind of came to a head last issue, so it makes sense. Mm-hmm. This is a good time to go back and now explain what's going on, what that mystery is.
Whence
the mystery came.
Fucking whence.
This is also a guest artist on this, different artist.
Because we usually have Walta.
Right. This is Walsh.
Yeah.
So let's talk about both aspects. Let's start off talking about the story. First of all, do we want to talk... I mean, she's right here on the cover, so can we just... Minor spoilers for this, I think, is safe to say. So you can hit the jump and skip to Black Panther. The short of it is this is good. Read it. So now let's spoil it. Scarlet Witch is who Viv is a copy of, right?
Right.
So we get this backstory of his relationship with her, how that went, and then how it ended, right. So how did you feel about the writing aspects, and was there anything in here that stood out to you?
The relationship dialogue between him as what he is and her as what she is was very, very interesting. I felt it was an interesting dichotomy that we don't usually get in books, or even this book. You know, I mean, most of our interaction, him and Viv, like, they have their own Vision style interaction, whatever, and then there's like the townspeople, but none of them are that vested in each other, you know, the same way that him and her were. So I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, I'm not real familiar with the past of either of these characters.
Yeah, I know Scarlet Witch sucks, but
yeah. So I thought this did a good job of filling it in and making sense of it without needing any of that backstory, which was cool. And it feels like there's a lot to explain here. I assume a lot of this is canonical, but he does a really great job of taking what feels like a huge mound of like interpersonal backstory and boiling it down and giving it to you over the course of like 15 pages.
It's really distilled into very key moments. Like good examples of like the beginning of the relationship and just interactions and yeah, it's like unique slices that make up their own sort of pie or cake or what have you.
Yeah, and the bookend of the issue I thought was really brilliant with them in bed and telling the joke, and we see kind of the repeat of it, and it creates a really creepy vibe by the end when you see the end and he's reliving this with the new creation that he has.
And it's a different experience at the end too.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that's like missing, and I think that was the illustration of it. Like even if you have like all of the intellectual goings on of a person, like that's not everything.
Yeah, the humanity, the experiences of that person, having lived, I think you get the feeling just from this one panel at the end that maybe he's not as happy about it in general as is perceived in the first 6. Like you kind of see the other side of him where he's trying to recreate something with this, and it makes it much darker and kind of more tragic.
Yeah, it's super creepy. And also, like, we just assumed from the beginning that, okay, he made himself a wife, like she must be like his ideal wife as he could create her, but such is not the case.
Yeah,
I mean, even in a situation where he's like made a being to be compatible with himself, there's stuff missing.
Right. Well, and he made a copy of somebody who he already was not compatible with.
No, that's right.
It's really not the greatest decision. Like, well, this failed, so now...
Well, it failed under extenuating circumstances.
Sure. Well, she went crazy.
Well,
was kind of the premise. The Scarlet Witch premise is that she goes crazy. Like, I know that much.
But not really. I mean, a lot of it was that he, like, all of his memories were gone. He got placed in a new body, and he felt, because of that, he had no connection or obligation to this person. And that's when they split up.
Right. The whole thing was a mess. They were a mess of a couple by the end, I think is the idea.
Sure. And
so he recreates it again and tries again with...
What's the closest he ever had, probably.
Yeah. Which I think is the kind of the metaphor that we're supposed to get out of this is this searching, that he's doing in a very human kind of way. He's making very human mistakes, which is kind of the idea.
Yeah, and I think maybe on those grounds he would aspire to make something that wasn't exactly perfect for him because he feels that may be like more human.
Right.
But then again, we have these imperfections that he didn't predict.
Yeah, very good. Artistically, how did you feel about it in those regards?
There's some spots I couldn't even tell was a different artist.
Right.
Honestly.
Agreed.
I think I like Walter a little bit better.
I do too.
But
I like this guy too, and I feel like he did have just enough of his own kind of thing going on that it was cool, especially like the flashback scenes near the center. I don't know how to describe them, like the sections with Wonder Man, basically. I really felt had their own vibe to them that I liked, that actually reminded me kind of the Jupiter Circle stuff that we'll be talking about here shortly. Let's talk about Black Panther #2. This Black Panther thing is selling like crazy, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
Good.
This is Ta-Nehisi Coates, Brian Starfleeze, and Laura Martin. And yeah, it's like, I think #1 sold like 300,000 copies, which is like Walking Dead and kind of numbers.
That's awesome.
It's really doing well.
So, now that we mentioned that, I think it's safe to say, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, like, vague ideas what the fuck's going on, but it jumps around like so much, and there's all these characters. I only know who he is, and then there's like the bad lady. That's all I remember from like a month ago. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I have no fucking idea.
Yeah, it's a little tough to follow. I think it's still supposed to be, to some degree, intentional. It's one of those stories that I think the idea is for it to come together over time, where the backstory of the characters is revealed over time to slowly weave the story together is what I feel is happening here.
Yeah.
And that has its positives and its negatives, I think. So first of all, just how did you feel in general about it?
I really liked little sections of narrative and dialogue. That's all I can really say.
Yeah. I feel like all of the Black Panther sections are really strong.
Yeah.
Like really strong. His narrative is awesome. And I can't help but read anything Black Panther with like the Black Panther from like the Mightiest Avengers or whatever that cartoon was. The guy that did his voice was just so good that I hear it in my head. And this is like a more adult telling with that same feel and style of that character. So I really dig that. His nobility comes through really well.
Definitely.
I guess is what I'm trying to get at, and it definitely has an African vibe to the way it's written, if that makes sense. Like I can hear like an African accent really deeply in all of it,
Some sort of African,
which is cool. Yeah, nondescript African.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree that it's a little difficult to follow precisely what's happening, but it doesn't really bother me per se.
I was kind of bothered by it. I think in a number 2, I mean, like, number 1 was kind of all over the place. In a number 2, I would expect them to just rein that back even just a little bit and, you know, give us some sort of continuation or something. But this is, like, even farther off in that direction. And I'm kind of worried because this guy, he doesn't have, like, super a ton of experience in comics.
Right. I actually felt the opposite, so it may be partially just down to the reader.
Sure.
Because for me, I felt like this one reined it in a little bit and made a little bit more sense of things, but I also didn't feel like the overall narrative and story was quite as compelling as the last issue. So I kind of half agree with you.
Sure.
Artistically, how do you feel about it?
Oh, the art's great.
Yeah, it's really cool looking, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This whole like Afrofuturism, I'm still really digging that look to it.
The color work on it is great.
Yeah, I really love the coloring specifically. It really helps separate out all the scenes, and paneling is just pretty standard though.
Yeah.
One other small complaint I have is just that all the names are really difficult, and that's just because it's set in Africa, but I think that's part of what makes it harder to follow, is that it's just hard to keep the names straight.
Sure.
Because they're all very foreign sounding, the names of the places and the people. So it's just a cultural thing that is a little frustrating, because I think it would be easier to read if the names didn't feel so foreign.
And I understand why. I mean,
what can you do?
Right. I mean, there'd probably be like
necessary.
A ton of backlash if they were all named like Fred and Chad.
Yeah, they have to have these names, but it doesn't help an already convoluted opening.
Definitely.
All right, now let's jump over to something that we picked up, jumped on just slightly late, but man, we're on it now. This is The Fix.
On it.
Issue number 2. This is Spencer, Lieber, Hill, and Shaw.
Yeah. So I can't remember exactly why they needed a dog, but they have this elaborate plan to get a dog and somehow continue like the theoretical movie narrative that they're trying to get going, and he ruined somebody's life. There's a lot of stuff happening.
I think it has something to do with smuggling through the airport.
Right. Yeah, because they were trying to get drugs through there, but they couldn't because like this one dog had made like millions of bucks.
Right.
So they'd get the dog out of the picture.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But generally speaking, this is one of those roundabout kind of stories where, the dog is the linchpin, but it's almost treated as like a MacGuffin. It's really not particularly important.
It's important in the very beginning and the very end.
Right. This is really a whole lot of style over substance, which is in no way a bad thing, in my opinion.
It's done well.
Yeah. This reminds me of like an American take on early like Guy Ritchie work. Is that make sense? Like a Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels kind of feel. It's very fast, very quick and clever. A lot of left turns where you don't expect them.
Yeah. What was that one with Jason Statham and Brad Pitt?
Snatch, also Guy Ritchie.
Snatch, yeah. Yeah, I get that vibe from him.
Yeah, very much so. And it's very cinematic. I have to imagine that with as well as this is doing, people are going to be looking at movie rights for this.
Sure.
This feels like a film already, and it's
even like the layout and everything, and like when we get like the full page spreads and everything, like it feels like a big screen moment.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. This
title sequence.
It's definitely either a film or maybe like AMC or something. Like somebody's gonna pick this shit up and make something out of it. I can guarantee it.
I also love their boss, dude. I just
he's
every
great.
time I read him, he's great. Like the fucking scene with the banjo dude.
Yeah, he's in a bluegrass band covering Joy Division songs.
Yeah. Of course he is. You know.
Yeah. Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah, and giving people kombucha.
Yeah.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
But then he murders somebody within like a few panels.
Right. Exactly.
Which of course he does.
Yeah.
So.
Man, this thing is it's cram packed full of humor.
Yeah.
It's so fucking clever.
And just little bits of story. I mean, like starting around the beginning or around the middle, we get this whole like separate section with this coworker guy, and then like they're investigating like a murder and stuff together, and it's crazy. It's like,
and it's
new stories start and end all the fucking time.
And it's really, I feel like the point of this issue is just to really drive home what a sociopath the lead character is.
Yeah.
Like he comes off as a friendly, funny guy who's maybe just from the wrong side of the tracks, right? But really, he's a son of a bitch.
He's fucked, yeah.
He frames this dude for murder, and just in his own head, it gives you through the issue like his perspective, and his perspective is just that because he's garbage, and because of the way he is, he just assumes everyone else is the same.
Mm-hmm. Because this guy's nice, that's like a cover-up for like some seriously dark shit that he's done.
Right. The sociopath just assumes everyone's a sociopath.
Right.
It's pretty fucking dark.
I love it though.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good dark comedy.
Very good. Nick Spencer knocking on the park once again. What can we say?
Yeah, he's been pretty consistently great. Mm-hmm. Except for Captain America, which is sort of the least good thing. All right, well, let's move on to
Jupiter Circle.
our other Image title, Jupiter Circle, Volume 2, Number 6. This is Millar and Torres. Is this the ending?
Of this volume, yes.
Yeah. Now we're going to move back to Jupiter's Legacy, Volume 2 next.
I think so.
Yeah, it's kind of what the end says right there.
I missed
let's
that.
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Sure. This is a pretty good continuation of the last story. We get a lot of stuff with the Utopian. He's kind of the main character of this issue, and I don't really want to give away too much because it's really good.
Yeah, it's really about him and his wife and that relationship, and just also, in a more general sense, just about who he is as a person, and it's
what it's like to be in his presence is a big theme.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, how he influences other people, and I think that's to sort of give us a counterpoint to the other people he's around who don't seem to be influenced in that way by him.
Right. We get a great bit at the end. It's just like contrasting bits of his friends and stuff and their relationships, and bitching about always picking the same place with the shitty steak and all that stuff, and then his relationship problems really stemming from the fact that you can't not be in his fucking shadow. Like, it just makes you feel like shit to be in his presence.
Right. And
he fucking flew Santa into like a hospital or something to give presents to a bunch of kids. Like, just fuck, dude. I mean, come on.
Right. He's really... I feel like the focus here is to show you how his relationship with his wife is kind of a distillation of his relationship in like the League, whatever they're called, right? Sure. It's kind of showing you the same thing. Like, he does everything right. He's perfectly suited for, the endeavor, but still things don't necessarily work out the way you would think they should, right? Mm-hmm. And we have the same problem, which we see over in Jupiter's Legacy, of how that manifests itself later down the line. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's even a bit in here where she talks about like them having kids. He's like, well, there's stuff that we could do, and she's like, why the fuck would I want to have kids with you? Something along those lines.
Yeah, it would be a disaster, basically.
Right. Yeah. Can't imagine like raising kids like in your fucking shadow. Like
Yeah.
it would be terrible for them.
Yeah. So
Which we already know how that goes.
Yeah. This was a really. It's not that amazing of an issue on its own.
I disagree.
I feel like
in context.
It
okay.
requires the context of the series to really hit home, and then
Yeah.
you realize how great it really is.
With context, I think it's very clear that this is like a big standout issue of the series.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I just gave this to somebody without prefacing anything about it, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't feel much different than maybe like All-Star Superman or something like that, where it's just a glimpse into a great guy and how that works, right? But
Sure.
in context of the series, it's quite pivotal, I think, and very important.
Yeah, I think this has become my favorite title, and I don't know what you would call the genre, like superhero realism or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are a few titles that have done that, but this one I feel like just really nails it, and he's so good at like just getting in the heads of all these people and imagining what sort of scenarios they would have to face, like the fucking Rockefellers trying to buy his sperm, so he can have a superhero kid that also like is a billionaire, and
Right.
these lines between the elite and different factions, because we have the elite as like rich people or whatever, but there's like a whole other brand of elite in this series.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, you say superhero realism, but there's still a heavy feeling of an idealized world to it in my mind. It feels like Mad Men or
Sure. Well, it's
kind of
a
an
period piece.
a period piece in the way that it's kind of idealizing that period of time in a way.
Sort of, though. I mean, there's a lot of exceptions to that. Like the gay character that we had. I mean, one of the first things we see is just him going through hell.
Yeah.
Just trying to exist as
Sure.
he chooses to exist.
Sure, it's an interesting line that he's walking. Millar is creating this world that feels whole and realistic within its own bounds in a way that I haven't seen quite the same before. I wouldn't say it's realism in the way that a lot of people think of realism. A lot of people think of realism as sort of gritty and dark, and it doesn't necessarily do that in the same way. It's
a little bit different.
It's writing a strange and interesting line.
I also really like this little bit where he just, after he does this amazing fucking thing, he just like breaks down and starts crying, and it's like, you don't consider. We get his wife's perspective on like trying to live basically in his shadow and everything, but trying to be him.
Right.
Like, imagine that.
Yeah, the pressure of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He set the bar so high for himself. Like, what the fuck is he gonna do?
Right. Yeah. It's just really, really good.
Yeah. Really, really good.
Yeah. The last one we have today is Archie. Is this number 8? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's Wade and Fish, and let's talk about it.
Ronnie's dad's still trying to get rid of Archie in various ways.
Yeah, so we have this scheme here. If we talk about the plot, it's the he offers his dad a great position, but he's going to have to move, and it works out fine. But that's with Archie stories. That's kind of not the most important aspects of these, really.
Sure.
The important stuff here, I think, is generally the interpersonal humor of like very normal relationships, I think.
Yeah. And not to mention the visual humor.
Yeah.
There's great visual humor. I love the bit in this where Jughead and him are sitting in the park and he throws the ball for the dog and the dog brings back a stick.
I didn't even catch it.
You didn't catch that?
I didn't catch that at all.
Loved it.
There's a lot of stuff like that in here. It's pretty consistent. But the characters just continue to sort of grow and get fleshed out in interesting ways.
Yeah.
As well as the way the comic is being put together, the way it's laid out is starting to cement now with the chapters. But also with this bit that Wade and Fish are really taken to another level here, where as the story progresses, we get the Saved by the Bell kid, Zach. Do you
What was his
remember?
last name?
Well, we get like the Zach bit from Saved by the Bell where the story's still happening, but he turns and faces and breaks the fourth wall to tell you what's happening. It's a really clever way of doing exposition that feels like super like postmodern to me.
Even though it's like 90s, like to the T.
Yeah, but
All those like teen shows in the 90s did that.
right, yeah, but it's using it completely just straight. Like they don't care that it's played out, and it makes it feel very modern.
Yeah.
To me, right? They're just acknowledging that, hey, why not? Let's use this really good trick in a comic. It just makes it feel like what I remember being this age felt like because of the media that we...
Right. You associate it with things like that.
Right? Yeah.
Another thing that I really like about this, and I don't think it's something that we've touched on before, but I would say every issue that we've got of this has been a pretty well self-contained story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are things that happened before this issue. There's going to be things that happened after this issue, and it references some, and it leaves, like doors open for things that are going to happen next. But, I mean, anybody could pick up any one of these issues and feel completely at home like the entire time.
Right.
And then not read another one ever again after that, and it would be fine.
Or just pick one up 3 or 4 issues later.
Yeah,
and
and it would
still
be
be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So I think Wade's going to great lengths to sort of bring back, or at least incorporate, all of these things that people are sort of nostalgic about, or just kind of look back and smile on, and like incorporate them into this. So it's like an effort to keep everything about Archie that the Archie fan would like, while giving it like a fresh flavor.
They even, in the middle sections with the storm, that actually, you have it to this page right now, Fish is now even incorporating a bit of the feel from like the Afterlife with Archie and the like newer creepy Archie stuff, Sabrina the Witch stuff and all that.
Sure.
We're even getting a little bit of that feel and those color schemes in here now, which I think is a really cool nod to some of the other really popular, cool Archie stuff that's been out.
Yeah.
They're just the art is really crushing it. It feels like Archie, but like new and just good. I don't even, it just has a great look to it that feels fresh but yet recognizable.
Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a modern classic.
It is. It's so lame to say, but why do you have to say it out loud? Just let me dance around the term. God damn it.
It's like the pullover sweater of comic books. It's not going to go out of style.
That's great. You're right. And it fits.
And it's warm.
It fits the book so well, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a pullover sweater of comics, this is it. That wraps it up for us this week. Check back with us next week when we'll do it again. We're also here every Monday doing other stuff that's still comics, but not the weekly pull list. We go back, look at old stuff, talk about our favorites of things, recommend stuff for you to read, new trades, all that kind of stuff.
We're doing Lock and Key.
Lock and Key coming up. We're going to do that, which is Joe Hill, Stephen King's son. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to that. I am.
I am
you
as
should
well.
be too. We have a monthly review that'll probably be coming up here pretty soon already. It's crazy. We're starting to... It's getting further and further into the month every time. It feels like eventually we're going to be like a month behind on those. But just deal with it. We're coming up on a year now, aren't we?
Yeah. Because this will be poll number 50, I think. There's 52 weeks in a year, so...
Is there 52 weeks in a year?
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't know those numbers, how that works. Great.
Yeah.
That does make sense.
Facebook, Twitter.
Yeah.
Tumblr.